Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our final Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants hangout of the school year. We are live from Yucatan, Mexico. We're joining two National Geographic explorers, Jaskolski and Guillermo from one of the most famous sites in Mexico, the ancient city of Chichen Itza. Over the last week or so, they've been rappelling into cenotes and using all kinds of new technology like ground penetrating radar and lasers to explore the site. Guys, I know you're about 8 days in. How's it been going so far?
Was the signal better over?
Can you guys hear me okay?
We're losing signal a bit,
but
we're moving to get some better signal.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's what happens when you do things from the field. Sometimes the signal works, sometimes it doesn't. How about now? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
It turns out Mayan walls are really good at blocking cell phone signals too.
Fair enough. They were always thinking. They were ahead of their time.
Absolutely.
All right. So it's been about 8 days. What have you guys been up to?
Yeah, I think this is our 8th day in the field here, working together. Guillermo and I have worked together, I don't know, 8 or 9 different times on different projects here, all in the area of Mexico. So, are you still there too, Joe?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're still here. Can you guys hear me?
Okay. We can hear you. Sounds good. So, yeah, Guillermo, why don't you tell them a little bit about your research in the whole Mayan area?
Of course, I am Guillermo de Anda, and I am an archaeologist specialized on the Maya, which is a fascinating culture. And my area of work is the underground. I am a cave and a cenote researcher. Cenotes, for those of you that might not know, are flooded caves that are all over the underground here in the Yucatan Peninsula, and they are beautiful places. They are great for exploration, and they have tons of scientific information.
All right. So I know you're somewhere pretty special right now. Can you tell us a little bit about El Castillo? I can see it behind you, but I know there's some significance to the structure.
Of course. That's one of the most amazing buildings of the ancient world here in Mexico. It's not only beautiful and impressive, but it's also it also has lots of meanings. It's a solar marker, so the ancient Maya used to see the passing of the sun, so they can calculate and calibrate their own calendar. They have calendars different than the ones we have. They were based in the observation of the stars and the sun specifically. And this building, it's placed there so it can be used as an observation point for the sun. And this was so important because the sun is such as the zenithal passage of the sun, which occurs only twice a year. It was a time to start planting the seeds for agriculture. So it was also part of their survival on this area. And it also have a lot of symbols that we can talk about.
All right. And so I've heard that the positioning is pretty special. Is it true that once or twice a year when the sun hits it at the right spot, it kind of gives the shadow of a serpent?
Exactly. It's good that you come up with this question. Yeah, on the solstice and equinox, the sun it's going to form a shade on the building right on the facade that we're looking at, and it's going to form the body of a serpent down through the stairway, little by little, until it gets to the head that it's right on the bottom of the stairway. And then symbolically, the ancient Maya believed that Kukulkan, the feathered snake, underworld, go up to the top of the building, goes down on that very special day, and then goes to the north towards the sacred cenote, one of the most sacred features here in Chichen Itza, and then it go back to the underworld. as for its position, is also a marker of for cenotes. What I mean is, to the north, there is one cenote right in front of the north facade. To the south, there's another one, which is Ixtolog. The one to the north is the sacred cenote. And then there's one to the west and another one to the east. And if you trace two lines between the four cenotes, you will see that the center of those lines is El Castillo. Can you believe that?
That's amazing. So I know cenotes, they form in the limestone underwater or underground caves that fill with water. Why in the world would you want to rappel into one? What are you up to down there?
Well, because they are amazing and there's a lot of information and that's also a lot of fun. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, so under the underworld, the underground caves and these cenotes are very special because a lot of archaeology is preserved under them. I mean, if you think about if we were looking for Ice Age animals or human remains on the ground here, if they were 1,000 years old, they would probably have been eaten by animals or would have decayed. Places in these caves and these cenotes, they're still preserved. Their bones are still preserved. Pieces of pottery are still preserved very well. So it's almost like a time machine when we can go underwater and find these things preserved as if they're in a museum, because the water being dark and low oxygen and the right mineral concentration preserves these things. So that's why it's amazing to be able to go down there where we can do our work, which includes 3D scanning these objects right where they are, so we can bring up 3D scans of them and share them with the world without ever having to disturb them.
That's amazing. I remember, Corey, not too long ago, we did a hangout from the Blue Holes in the Bahamas. Are you walking around with your HoloLens this time?
Not this time. We didn't bring it this time. We had a pretty big set of gear this time. We brought inflatable kayaks and sonar systems and ground penetrating radar and laser scanners, and we had so much equipment this time. I didn't think they were going to let us on the airplane, so we didn't bring any of the visualization tools like the HoloLens this time.
Very cool. So I know you're 8 days in. What's the plan carrying forward throughout the summer?
Yeah, I mean, the plan for us is, first of all, we've always, after one of an expedition like this, you know, it seems like it's over when we leave, but it's never over when we leave. There's so much data to analyze. You know, every day we probably gather a couple terabytes of data, and we have to process all that data and analyze it. So in the field, we can see some things and think we know what they mean when we use ground penetrating radar and sonar and lasers. But we really got to take all that data back and do lots of calculations and math on it to understand what it all means. So in the near future, we're going to be processing a lot of data. But after that, I think we have the whole area is an area of interest in Memo's research, and we'll be exploring this entire area for the summer.
Of course, yes. Of our field season, this partnership with my good friend Corey Jaskolski is fantastic. So this is just a startup. As he said, he goes back home to analyze a lot of the data that we have already. I stay here for several weeks, looking for more places, more areas. I'm waiting for some of his information to start maybe doing some interpretations and starting much more cenotes. You know, as Corey well said, they are a treasure of information. If you go far away in a cave, you'll be able to see extinct fauna, such as gomphotheres, which are relatives to the mammoths and the modern elephant, giant sloths, there's bears, tiger. And if you're coming closer to the entrance, we see remains of this fantastic culture, the Maya culture, that have given us a lot of information that we didn't know that related to Maya rituals, for instance. That is on the surface excavations here. There is a lot of info, but there's not a lot of preservation of bone materials, of organic materials, etc. But underwater, the degree of preservation, as Corey said, is fantastic. So this is changing the way we perceive the Maya world. This is changing even what's written on our books. So it's really a privilege to be working on an area like this, and we will continue. And I'm sure if we do another hangout in the future, we will give you much more information of what we're doing here or what we've found.
Excellent. Well, I guarantee we'll be doing another hangout in the future. As long as you're willing, we'll definitely do it.
Of course.
I love
Maybe
the back
on ropes hanging over a cenote.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Definitely. We got to figure out a way to come underwater with you. We got to look at that tech.
There you go.
Okay. Well, the city looks incredible. I know you've had a great few days. We have classrooms watching live, so I just want to say to the classrooms on YouTube, send in your questions via the chat sidebar. We're going to switch over to questions very shortly. Let us know who you are and where you're from, and we'll get those questions in. But I wanted to ask, before we meet the classrooms, you guys are both National Geographic Explorers and no strangers to adventure and exploration. Can you tell us a little bit, both of you, how you kind of fell into your field, how you got into your roles?
Well, this for me was my childhood dream. I always dream on be a professional diver and to discover things. So when I find out that you could be a geologist, I do everything I could in order to achieve this, and I was lucky enough to be able to do it and be working here on the Mayan area. Of course, I have had a lot of experience on training on diving, which this is complicated sometimes. You need to be a very good diver and have the right equipment. And I went to school, which is such an important part of the development of every person until I completed my PhD. So this is what I'm doing out here.
Yeah, and for me, I was in school for engineering, and so I'm a technology guy and build technologies to help do these explorations. But when I was in school, I didn't think I was going to go into. I was probably going to get a job at a computer company or one that made electronic circuits. But I ended up, while I was in school, I ended up getting the opportunity to actually go down to the Titanic with James Cameron using some technology that we built. So while I was on the Titanic, 12,500 feet deep, running robots around inside Titanic, I realized I could be an engineer, but still have my passion of exploration and merge those two together. So that was it for me.
All right. And classrooms can dig deeper too on Corey and Guillermo. If you go to YouTube and search up National Geographic, you can find some of their recent talks and such, and find out a little bit more about these guys. I had the pleasure of hanging out with both you guys in DC a little over a week ago, and it was a great week of just meeting great people and seeing all kinds of great new technology.
Sure was.
Yes, it was.
And it's nice to see you guys out in the field using some of it.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, let's meet some classrooms and get some of their questions. So our first classroom is Mrs. Noble's grade 7s. They're in Keene, Ontario. Let me turn on your microphone and go ahead with the question, nice and loud.
Okay, who wants to do the first one? You want to do where do you store all the data? Go ahead.
Okay, my first question is, where do you store all the data?
Sure. Yeah. So we usually bring probably between the couple people on the team, we probably have 10 hard drives here or something like that. And we'll bring them all back home and we'll plug them into a giant computer that we have. The computer we use to process all the data weighs about 100 kilograms, so 200 pounds or a little more. And actually, it's so fast and powerful that it's all liquid cooled. There's tubes of liquid going through cooling all the parts so it can run that fast. We have lots and lots of hard drives racked up in there, and we store all the data on there. And then we back it up online using the Amazon cloud so that if anything happens to that computer, it'll still be safe. But I mean, when we get home, we have like a couple days of offloading data. It's just so much data.
All right, liquid cooled computers. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than Indiana Jones these days, isn't it?
Completely different.
Yeah. Guillermo is still Indiana Jones for sure, though. He has a hat that looks a little bit like it, and the resemblance is striking.
All right, I'm going to jump to YouTube because we have a question online. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So this is a class from Combermere, Ontario. They're excited to see some Mexican history, and they're wondering how many archaeologists are working on the site.
Well, on this moment, it's 2 archaeologists, and next week will be a total of 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, so this is just the starter, and things are expanding now as the expedition continues.
Exactly.
Excellent.
You bet. Yep.
All right, well, let's meet another live on-screen classroom. Mrs. Hohen's grade 2s are joining us from Barrie, Ontario. Let me turn your microphone on. Nice and loud, guys.
Nice and loud.
Have you guys found any gems or human remains or animals?
Did you get that? He was wondering if you found any gems, human remains, or animals.
Well, yes, you know, these systems are so rich on information that almost every time we go down there, we can see at least a little fragment of human bone. And during our exploration in all these areas, we had found, I can say, over 200 human remains.
It's pretty amazing to go scuba diving in these places, and you're going, you know, down into this dark cenote with your flashlight, and you're looking around, and it's mostly, you know, mostly rock and soil. A human skull sticking out of the soil, and you can see the front of the skull. It's really amazing, and they're all over in these cenotes. So we find quite many of them. And the other really cool thing that Guillermo found some years ago and took me there to help 3D scan it was an Ice Age bear. Ice Age era, maybe 12,000 years old, that its head was still underwater in this cenote. So amazing animal and human remains, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that
several
thousand years after, maybe 15,000, this is still in good shape. It's complete, very well preserved.
Oh, it's amazing. It really is.
Stop asking questions. Pay attention.
It really is just a great, great areas to find some of the history preserved. It's really quite amazing.
It is.
More questions popping in online. Mrs. Gaisley's class is joining us from Ajax, Ontario. What kind of gear do you wear into the cenotes?
Well, we use equipment for cave diving, which is essentially redundant, very redundant. At the very least, we have 2 tanks apiece, 2 regulators, which we use for breathing. We use lots of lights, of course, diving computers, and something very important, the most important piece of technology we use is a line, a reel of line that lead us to the deepest point of penetration and allow us to go back following that line. That's very important.
And we also will bring, if we're 3D scanning, we bring a giant camera that with its arms out is wider than me here, and lets us swim with the camera to do the 3D scanning. So we bring a lot of equipment in the.
And that's a very important point that you bring up about. That's a very important point you bring up about the safety. These aren't the kind of dives you can just jump in after getting your recreation certification. It's closed environments are definitely, yeah.
Right, and also a lot of times the water that we're trying to get to might be 30 meters almost from the surface. So yesterday, for example, we rappelled into a cenote, a very important cenote, and we had to go down sheer cliffs, 27 meters. So we had to.
I can still hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. So we'll going down this steep cliff before we even get to the water. So along with the cave diving equipment, we have to wear rock climbing harnesses, and we have to wear safety equipment for climbing down these walls or rappelling down these walls. and so it's very tricky, and you got to be safe even before you get to the water because it's so far down to the water.
All right. Well, let's meet another one of our live classrooms. Mrs. Gibson's grade 7's in Guelph, Ontario. Let me turn your mic on and see if you have a question for the team.
Turn on the mic. Hey, Julie, go right in there.
All right.
I don't know. Stand up. What I was going to ask is that thing behind you. You said it was. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but what does that mean? Is it like a pyramid or a temple, or what? I couldn't hear it clearly.
Okay, so it sounds like she's wondering the structure behind you. What's its name mean? Is it a temple? Is it a pyramid? What was its significance?
I couldn't quite hear that, but I think you were asking, is that a temple or a pyramid?
Yeah, and what's the meaning of the name?
Meaning of the name?
The meaning of the name?
Yeah.
Castillo?
I think so, yeah.
The name El Castillo is the castle. But this is a name that the Spanish conquerors give this place because it looks like a huge castle, a medieval castle. But the real name is Kukulkan Temple. Kuk means snake.
Sorry, guys, you're just getting a little choppy. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, there's someone talking over you, but yep.
Okay. Let's meet. Let's grab a question from online. So, okay, another group from online is wondering, how long do you guys spend in the cenotes at one time?
We sometimes 3 hours, but we stay much longer. They were in a dive.
Yeah, so it's not just being down there diving. How long because a lot of times you're going through a little hole just as big and then you're underground where you're cenote. So all total sometimes we get there in the morning and by the time we come up it's dark out. So we're in there a long time. Work sometimes. Basically until we're really hungry. That's when we come out.
That's a good time to come out. So guys, you're just the sound's breaking up just a little bit. Can you guys just try moving just a little bit to see if we can get the sound a little clearer?
Joe, there's another classroom that's on the mic is on, and so it's reverbing with that classroom.
Okay, let me see if I can. There, is that better?
Yep.
Much better.
Okay, excellent, good. Okay, so let's see what's online right now. Give a shout out. Mrs. Kelly's grade 3s are watching us right now in Milton, Ontario. If you have a question, guys, feel free to type one in. Let's see. Well, let's meet this other classroom. Mr. Rock's class is joining us. How's it going, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Hi.
We can hear you okay.
Where are you guys joining us from today?
Cambridge, Ontario, Canada.
Cambridge, Ontario. Do you have a question for our team?
We do. One of our students has a question. They would like to know, why are the pyramids shaped like that, and why are they different than the Egyptian ones?
Good question.
Well, because the Egyptians and the Mayans didn't have any influence between each other. So each one developed their own way to their own architecture, their own way to place pyramids. What they share in common is this idea of getting high in the sky on a building, maybe replicating mountains in the case of the Maya, or trying to get closer to their deities, to their gods. So they are completely different, and they use it's different too. The Egyptian pyramids are usually tombs. There's a lot of burials there. This is not the case in the Maya area. They serve some other functions. What do you think, Jorge?
Yeah, and the other thing is that pyramids in Egypt, most of them don't have, as far as I know, don't have rooms inside, thing like that. But El Castillo behind us, you can see the big room on top of it, and then inside El Castillo, there's another pyramid that's hidden away from your view. But there's a room on top of that one as well. So maybe a little different than the Egyptian pyramids in that there was a purpose for these areas inside the pyramid as well, where I think a lot of the Egyptian pyramids are solid pyramids with a tomb underneath it. But it is interesting that, you know, both cultures, which never knew each other at all, would both build pyramids to, you know, which is probably just the easiest way to build a really tall building without modern building techniques. You know, now we can build skyscrapers. But back then, you had to build things on a slope so people could walk up and keep putting rocks on top until you had something very tall. So that's probably why they look similar.
You know, so some of these buildings, like El Castillo behind us, some of them are not that tall, but is go to the internet and look for buildings in Chichen Itza. You're gonna see lots of difference, lots of ornaments. Beautiful, as Corey said, pyramids full of rooms, stairways. This city, it's beautiful.
Amazing. Well, guys, I know you have more to do this afternoon. How's our time? Do you have time for another question or two?
Sure.
Sure.
Excellent. Let's jump back to Mrs. Noble's class because I saw them just send me a question. So I'll let you guys ask it. Your mic's on.
Right up, Mason. Sit right down and talk right in the microphone.
How do 3D scanners work?
Great question. So the way the 3D laser scanners work is it's a laser that shoots out thousands of thousands. In fact, some of them shoot out lasers millions of times per second. And each laser beam that shoots out, when it hits something, it bounces back to the scanner. And what the scanner does is measures the amount of time it takes for that pulse to come back. And that way it can tell the distance, almost like a tape measure made out of light. Come back and it knows the distance. But if we were going to 3D scan my hand, millions of times along my hand to get every little distance, we did it really fine. We'd start seeing the curves between my fingers. And also we do that, but we do it on the scope of, you know, whole cities or whole buildings or rooms in order to 3D scan it. And we get a very accurate measurement of the whole world around us that way.
Yeah, definitely check out. You can probably find it. Maybe I'll post the link, but Corey just did a little talk while he was at Nat Geo a week or so ago, and just an incredible scan of the Tomb of Jesus. You guys have to check it out. So I'll share that link. It's amazing what you're able to do. You almost can't tell the difference between the real and the scan. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
All right. So let's visit Mrs. Hohen's class quickly and see if they have another question, a final question.
How long did it take to build that pyramid?
Good question. We don't know exactly, but there's some rough calculations. It's something between 50 and 70 years.
That's a long time.
Long time for a pyramid, yeah.
Right. And Joe, before you sign off, I think while you're on here with all the classroom, you're a pretty humble guy, so you probably didn't tell everybody, but just so you all know, Joe is just awarded as one of the newest National Geographic Explorers because of all the amazing stuff he's doing with the program, Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So congratulations, Joe.
Yes, good job, man.
Thank you very much. Well, it's getting to hang out with guys like you that make it all possible and willing to get out into the classrooms. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, good deal.
But I will admit it is.
Guys and girls in the classes, I mean, you might be wondering how you can be an explorer as well, but you know, it's you just follow your dreams and do what you're good at. You know, I mean, Guillermo's an archaeologist, and that's, you might think, yeah, you know, you're probably going to get to explore, but I'm an engineer, you know, but I really love exploration. So I used my engineering skills, what I was good at, to try to help be an explorer. So no matter what you love, if you're an artist and you want to be an explorer, there's ways to come out and use your arts buildings to help people measure them and be an explorer that way. If you love marine biology, there's lots of the ocean that needs to be explored. So just follow your dreams, and it's amazing where it can take you.
Couldn't agree more. There's so much left still to discover, still to explore, still to find. So that's awesome advice, guys. Really good. Just one more question squeaked in online, and then maybe we'll let you guys get back to your activities for the day. They're wondering how cold the cenotes are.
They are not really cold, but when you compare with the temperature we have here, we use centigrade, and sometimes we are 40 centigrade up here. At least that's the sensation. And you all of a sudden get to the cenotes, which are in average 27 centigrade, which is not really cold, but you can feel the difference, especially when you just jump in the water. And as you go down, as you go through, there's some layers of colder water sometimes, but never below 26, 25 at the most. So it's not really cold water.
But when you're in it for 3 or 4 hours, almost no matter what, you feel cold by the time you get out. You're glad to get out and get into the sunlight again.
You lose a lot of your body heat. That's for sure.
All right. Well, I got to get you guys up here for some Canadian diving. I'll show you some cold diving.
I bet. Yeah.
That might kill us both. We're used to Mexico. It's a little warmer here.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I'm so glad we were able to pull this off. I know it took a little bit of juggling to get it going, but it was an absolute pleasure to host you guys and share you with classrooms for our last hangout of the year. And I know the classrooms watching online and who joined us live today really appreciate it. So again, thank you so much for everything you guys do. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to turn the microphone. Oh, and Chris, thank you for filming and holding the camera. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Have a great summer vacation, all the kids out there.
All right. Microphones are coming on so the kids can say goodbye. All right, guys, go ahead. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Safe travels, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Bye.